Doctor? Doctor, come quickly!
The calendar!
Okay, Callum, I have a question for you, sir.
Shoot.
Shooty Gatwa. Why couldn't Robb Stark jump his car?
Strapped to his horse because he was dead. That's the best I got.
He executed his driver, Lord Carstart.
It was something to do with someone being beheaded, so that's probably the closest I've been in a while.
Hello and welcome to day 10 of the 2022 Jedis Adventure on the Advent Calendar. We are today doing Game of Thrones Season 4, Episode 3, Breaker of Chains. Last time, Joffrey fucking died.
Yay.
Yep, Joffrey died. What are your anticipations for this episode?
Oh, there's going to be a lot of... I mentioned this at the end of the last watch, or last episode, that I can imagine after the opening credits, we go right into the legitimate aftermath of it, where Tyrion is thrown in prison and we just get a good 2 minutes of just holy shit, that just happened, and everyone goes fucking crazy. So if I'll be actually surprised if that didn't happen, but not in a way of like, oh, I wanted this. It's like, that's just something I think they could probably do. But, yeah.
I mean, if it was a Stephen Moffat episode, they wouldn't start with that. They would start with something completely different.
They would start with a weird opening where this place 2 weeks later, and then we're confused for a good 2 minutes, and then it's revealed, because that's the only seemingly trick he has in his playbook when it comes to continued stories.
Yeah. Anyway,
Series 6, everyone.
Shall we? Yeah. Yeah, I have things to say about that. I also have things to say about season 6 of this show, but that's a long way off. We're still on season 4.
We got 2 seasons to go before that.
Yeah, we're still on season 4. Shall we crack right into Breaker of Chains?
I guess we should. Yep, we're starting right off. I was right. Let's go. I'm so smart. Look at my big brain.
Where's Sansa?
Find her. Bar the gates of the city, sees every ship in the harbour.
Where is she?
No one leaves the capital! No one!
Oh, the bells toll. But there's no dragons. Yeah, anywhere other than here will probably be much nicer and safer. That did seem a little easy.
It was prepared.
It was prepared, yeah. This is one of those spooky ships.
Lord Baelish.
Peter,
Ah!
you heard. Wait!
Oh. Well.
I had it made a few weeks ago. What did I once tell you at the capital?
We haven't seen him since Chaos is a Ladder last season.
No. Yeah.
And he attended 3 small council meetings in 17 years. He spent his time whoring and hunting and drinking, until the last 2 killed him. Your brother was not a wise king. Your brother was not a good king. If he had been, perhaps he'd still be alive. Now, as the king, you will have to marry.
My word.
To further the family line. Do you know how that happens?
Yes?
Yes, but has anyone seen the detail?
Please. You have to. He was our son. Our baby boy.
You're a hateful woman. Why have the gods made me love a hateful woman?
It's not right.
I don't care. I don't care.
Don't touch him.
I don't care.
And that was.
I'll address that later.
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan.
We ask the warrior to give us courage in these days of strife and turmoil. We ask the maiden to protect Sally's virtue and keep her from the clutches of depravity.
You going to do all 7 of the fuckers?
Father. I'm so sorry.
Fucking hell.
Like a dog.
Yep.
She's becoming just like him. There's a lot of rapers.
We're big on the rapers, it seems, today up the north. On the wall.
My father hated that word.
It's not a very nice word, I suppose.
I don't know. Makes me sound a bit dangerous, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it is a slur, Gilly.
It's fine. She's not been properly educated.
No, clearly not. She's been listening to too much. She's been listening to too much rap music.
Oh, God.
There's 100 men lying awake at night picturing you.
And what about you?
What about me?
Yep.
You're a literary man now. What do you make of that?
He's been reading.
He's trying.
You won't be a very good hand if you see the word knight and say curd nigget.
That happened once.
What's the difference?
Well, if you're a famous smuggler, you're not doing it right.
My father says a criminal's a criminal.
Your father lacks an appreciation of the finer points of bad behavior.
But that's not you.
I need to get their attention. Go. Right.
Hmm.
Hey, I'd like to apply for a loan.
Yeah. Yep. A very physical loan. Tits!
Thank the gods for Bessie.
This has fallen down a bit ever since Robert left.
Mm.
Oh, that's quite a cut.
Ah!
This is the Thasman we never got.
Oh my God. Is one big massive orgy.
You like them both the same? Boys and girls?
Does that surprise you?
Everyone has a preference.
And everyone is missing half the world's pleasure. The gods made this, and it delights me.
Oh dear.
Prince
Oh
Oberyn,
dear.
Lord Tywin.
may we have the room?
You've come to join us.
I don't think Tywin's a big fan of whores.
No, he's not. God, he fucking hates every second of it.
Would you like to sit?
No, thank you.
Some wine.
Yeah.
No. You help me serve justice to the king's assassins, and I will help you serve justice to Elias.
What a great
That was a
scene
good
that
scene.
was.
That was a good scene.
There has never lived a more loyal squire.
That was great.
Mm.
Potatoes. Well, no one boils a potato better than your mum. She got.
Yep, dead.
That was going way too well.
Yeah, no, as soon as it's like, oh, well, how good our family is, our mum cooks some great potatoes. And then, yeah, dead. Oh, God.
Those your parents? Open your eyes. I'm going to eat them. Do you hear me?
Fucking hell.
I'm going to eat your dead mama.
Ah!
Marine! Look how fucking massive that pyramid is.
Oh, look at that pyramid.
What is he doing?
I believe he means to.
Oh. Oh.
You sure you don't want a horse?
I would want a horse.
Horses are faster than men.
Horses are dumber than men.
That's not very nice.
There you go. Oh my god, he threw a knife. Whoa.
Breaker of Chains.
Mm.
Right then. Your initial thoughts on Breaker of Chains?
I thought that was a pretty decent episode overall. Think compared to the first two, I don't think it's as strong, but I think it has a lot of really good scenes between some pretty decent scenes between some of the characters. I think the strongest scene for me, if I'm just remembering, I think it would probably be the scene in the brothel. I think that scene was probably the highlight for me. That was a bloody great dialogue heavy, well worded scene. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of decent stuff throughout. One scene I would probably say is the first time in this show where I think I am not a fan of this at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I will get to that at some point. But I would probably say
There's
overall,
a lot of
decent episode. Yeah, decent.
There's a lot
episode.
of important things to know about that. What you just said there, but we'll get to it. It's an awkward one, unfortunately. But yeah, I think this episode is a mixed bag. I think it has a collection of some very, very good scenes, dialogue scenes. I think some scenes are good. And then I think it has one very unfortunate error that... It's a production error. Let's say that it has one very unfortunate production error that really fucks up the end of what was a great scene up to that point. And the end result is probably the lowest point in the show so far. However, it is kind of it is a case of complication, and it's not the I wouldn't call it the show-breaking red light that I was referencing at the start. We haven't got to that yet, but there is a very unfortunate error in this episode that creates a very poor conclusion to a scene that was very great beforehand, I thought. But we'll start with. How about actually? No, you know what? We'll kind of start with that, focusing around Joffrey Baratheon because he was a corpse in this episode, and we'll kind of focus mainly around those who followed his body in this episode. So we had Tommen Baratheon, his younger brother, who's now going to become the new king. And we'll start with the first scene with Tywin, and then we'll get to the Oberyn scene after. So we'll start with the first one. I thought the dialogue exchange between Tywin and Tommen was fantastic.
I agree. I thought
about
that was a really, really, really nice way of showing that he doesn't have the experience at all because he's clearly still very, very young. He has a decent amount of knowledge, but what Tywin's point is that he will need a lot of guidance and wisdom from his elders or people on the council to advise him until he comes of age with more experience. I think that was probably, along with the brothel scene, a pretty big highlight in terms of just dialogue and how well done the dialogue was.
As I've said, Tywin Lannister is my favorite character in Game of Thrones, and he was, in this episode, he was the star. He just is so damn good. I love it because not only are his suggestions logical and reasonable, but they also come with the edge of his manipulating Tommen into being his bitch.
In a sense, yeah.
Because he says, you will listen to your wise counsel, and I am the one that is the most wise of your counsel. And basically trying to manipulate Tommen into letting Tywin rule the world, whilst Tommen is the de facto monarchy king, if you get what I'm saying. I think... Yeah. And then there was a third layer to that was even better, was the fact that he was literally doing it next to Joffrey's fucking corpse right in front of Cersei.
Well, in that scene, you can see, like, she's almost in awe of what the hell Tywin is doing. Like, in front of Joffrey's corpse. His corpse is just probably only a couple days later, if that.
Yeah,
her face tells it all in just her disgust of what's going on, and just like, she wants to, almost as if it's Joffrey's being swept under the rug, pretty much.
Absolutely, and you can tell Cersei just wants to scream, but she can't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because no one's really talking about how he was brutally murdered and poisoned.
Yeah,
by someone, and no one seemingly at the moment really cares. It's not the top priority because there's obviously going to be a trial, as we learned in this episode.
It was also really distasteful with Tywin saying,
yes,
your brother was brother was a bad king, right next to his corpse.
If he was a good king, he'd probably still be alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bloody great first part of that whole scene. A really strong first part.
Yeah, if we were to separate the scene into three parts, I thought the first part was phenomenal with Tywin and Tommen and Cersei and Joffrey's corpse. That was just unbelievable. Then you get the second part, which I thought was also really good, up until a point when Jaime comes in, and I loved the, they get all of the Sept and holy men to leave the room and have a moment alone, where she just opens up and says, they killed our son. It was Tyrion, I know it. He said these words, and that references a scene where Tyrion actually did say those words to Cersei.
Yep, I remember. Yeah.
Ashes will turn, the joy will turn to ashes in your mouth. And Cersei wants Jaime to kill Tyrion, and the conflict with Jaime is really good.
The acting there was really good because Jaime does legitimately, he's the only one that actually does care for his brother, and you can very clearly see that, and his sort of just like conflict with that of Cersei so determined to wanting Tyrion dead, but then his love for Tyrion clashing very clearly. It was very,
Yeah,
very,
and that
very
ties
well
into the scene. That ties into the scene later when Tyrion asks Podrick to get Jaime to visit him as well.
Oh yeah, that scene was also fucking great too. That was a really good scene.
So that was fantastic. And then, unfortunately, we get to the part where things go sour. And I have to kind of explain the context for this and why it is the way it is. So, oh dear. Okay, so the way the scene plays out in the novel is... So this was foreshadowed in Two Swords, right? Jaime has just come back after all this time. This is the first, like, the last time I believe they slept together was actually in Winterfell. I could be wrong about that, but I believe that was the last time that they slept together was when he pushed Bran out of the tower. And clearly because he loves Cersei, he wants intimacy with her. And the way it plays out in the source material is he comes onto her because of his strong physical feelings for her. And then she initially says no, but then she changes her mind and says yes. And so it's consensual there. And then I think what the writers wanted to do in this is they wanted it to be a case of... They wanted it to be... She initially says no. Then they wanted her to consent and say yes, but not by Joffrey's body, not here. I think is what they wanted to do. And then there was a mistranslation between the script and the direction, the camera work and the editing. And unfortunately, what you get as an end result is you get a rape scene next to Joffrey's corpse, which is really out of character for Jaime.
It's really bad. That not only fucking in front of a dead son's dead body is a massive red flag for Jaime in terms of the consistency of his character. I do not believe for 1 second that Jaime would ever do that, despite his clear love for Cersei, because he still cared not only about Joffrey just as a person, but the fact that also that's his son, and he knows that. And then to then proceed to rape Cersei is also another big red flag, and it's really bad. Bad.
Now,
now that you've said that,
despite what you may think, Dave and Dan obviously have a terrible reputation in other areas, but they didn't intend this, because they see Jaime in a much more... The way they speak about him and the way they write him after this episode is not reflective of rape at all. And I think it's just an unfortunate...
Well, even before, I don't believe he would rape someone.
No, so they... When the because this got a lot of backlash, like a lot of backlash across the board. And I think they kind of had their head in their hands when this happened, because they didn't actually want that to happen. They didn't want the scene to have him rape her. And, there was a mistranslation from book to script to director to camera work to editing. That even one of the biggest budget shows in the world, sometimes these things can happen. And once it got to the post-production stages, they edited it the way they did. And that's what we have in the final cut, and it's really, really, really bad and out of character. Bad. And like this it's not ever addressed as rape from here on. Like, I know that's not really a spoiler for me to say. They never address it as in being like, oh, Jaime raped Cersei. No, because that's not what was written. It wasn't written to be a rape scene. It was written to be consensual, but it wasn't presented as consensual, and so it becomes across as rape, which is...
Well, yeah, well, no, it is
really
because it's the thing, because that's how it's presented. It is in all ways, it is rape. He has raped her, and that's pretty much now a part of the story. That's a part of the narrative, and it not being called out as that, obviously, because they can't really change it now because of all that big fuck up with the production. Clearly, that's always going to be a big. Jaime, do you remember when you raped Cersei?
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's a bummer. It's a real bummer.
It's a big mess up. that's pretty big.
Yeah, because the thing is, if you imagine that scene without rape, it actually would be a lot more fitting.
It'd be more of, yeah, I'd say, yeah.
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 Yeah, it's very awkward. The reason why I probably call this an orange light, it's because this wasn't on purpose. When the showrunners start to do things on purpose is when they have run out of excuses.
Sure, I'd probably say, despite that, I would probably just say it is a red flag because it can't be undone, really.
Yeah.
It can't be.
It really sucks.
It's a bunch of mistakes, and it's all culminating in that scene and how it's presented. I would say that's probably the worst scene of the show so far for me.
Well, if we're talking about the very end of it, yes. Unfortunately, because it follows on from fantastic stuff right before it.
Yeah. That's a real shame, that.
Yeah. Real shame. Oh dear. Anyway, it's a black mark on the episode, which is a real shame because the rest of it was really solid.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I guess we'll to lighten things up, make things better. We'll talk about the other scene with Tywin Lannister, which I think was probably the best scene in the episode, with him and Oberyn Martell in the brothel. That was fucking amazing.
Yeah,
I
dialogue was
loved that scene.
Expert dialogue.
It was the whole thing of addressing the past honestly, and then expressing actually we need each other to win because of the threats that we have. It's almost like Tywin is trying to say, I will give you the mountain, but I will categorically deny that it was my fault, which I don't believe for a second. And then basically he's tactically trying to get Oberyn on his side because he needs him on his side. And he's trying to sweet talk him into this because he knows that Oberyn has the power that he needs, and he's willing to try and put their past aside. But it comes with so much baggage, doesn't it? Because this isn't just disagreement. This isn't just family affair. This is literally, you had the mountain rape and murder my sister. You committed hate crimes against my family. But I think Oberyn knows this. I think Oberyn realizes, he's smart enough to realize, actually, as much as we hate the Lannisters, it is in our best interest to play the game with them. And I think that really came through in Pedro Pascal's performance.
Oh yeah, he was excellent in that scene. Two absolutely brilliant actors just talking and really just displaying such great narrative between the two. Yeah, it was fucking great. Really
Absolutely. Good. Pedro Pascal just has so much charisma.
Yeah, he does. When you give him an actual script he can work with. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, two of my favourite actors in the show. Charles Dance and Pedro Pascal. And not only before that, we also got the scene with him and Ilaria Sand and the whores. That was great. I loved
just
that.
A big old orgy.
Yeah. And he's just like, the gods give me that. I love this. The gods give me this. I love it too. They are missing half the world's pleasure. So good.
Yep.
And then I love the fact that is a setup for Tywin as well. The fact that he has to walk into a room of whores, which he despises.
Fucking hates it. Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, that was awesome. Awesome scene. It's going to be interesting seeing him not only being one of the, part of the whole legal process with Mace Tyrell and Tywin with the trial, but also on the small council, because they need to unite with the Dornish to, against all threats that are around them. With the threats that they know and the threats that they don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Ooh,
that was
yeah,
brilliant.
very good stuff.
That was
just a
absolutely
great scene
brilliant.
overall.
Yep. And then, of course, we had the scene between Olenna Tyrell and Marjorie Tyrell.
Yes, we did. Just
Talk-
after the
talking-
opening, yeah.
Talking about how the death of Joffrey and the fact that now Marjorie is going to have to try and be a queen to a new king. So she's now going to be betrothed to Tommen Baratheon, clearly. And I love the line where Olenna says,
her luck
this
is,
one will be...
like she mentioned, she seemingly is cursed at this point.
Yeah. But she's going to have to... I love the line where Olenna says, this one's going to be easier than the last one. It's Tommen Baratheon. He's just a
yes,
sweetheart.
it's not. The bright side is it's not Joffrey, and she's right in the fact that this was the only thing that would be better is if he was poisoned after they had a child. You know?
Yeah. The only thing is though, the one thing that it's weird to say it, but Tommen isn't as like as fucking awful as Joffrey is. Joffrey is much stronger than Tommen. He will actually argue back.
Yeah. As a person, he is very gullible's not the right word, but he's the most
naive.
Innocent Lannister. He's the most
He's very
innocent,
naive,
innocent Lannister that there is right now. Which it was the whole point of the scene between him and Tywin. So it'll be interesting where Marjorie goes from here.
Yeah, whereas with
She'll
Joffrey,
probably be a bit more happy, but yeah.
Like as much of an asshole as Joffrey was, he was actually clever. He was pretty clever in some regards.
He was clever, but he never got into things which would put his life in danger. That was the kind of person he was.
Yeah, because he's a coward. He's an absolute coward and a narcissist.
He's a clever coward.
But he was clever. He was clever and he was strong like Robert was. But Tommen isn't. He's very easy to manipulate and influence, whereas Joffrey wouldn't listen to a fucking word of it. It's like you compare the scene in the Bear and the Maiden Fair with Tywin and Joffrey by the throne, and compare that to the one with Tommen in this episode. It's like night and day.
Yeah.
Like that scene where Tywin's like, "We could arrange to have you carried." Yeah.
Such a good line.
And then we had... there was brief bits of other characters. Oh, yes, of course, we had the scene with Tyrion and Podrick in the cell.
Yes, we did.
That was a great little scene.
That was a really nice scene. I really liked that scene.
Mm-hmm.
Because Podrick has been a very loyal squire to Tyrion for pretty much the better part of nearly 2 seasons now. He's always been doing his job, doing it well, and being clearly very loyal. And I really liked that last bit of the last line. If I'm just trying to get to it because I'm trying to remember, but basically, there's never been a more loyal squire.
Yeah, it's true.
Nick, and I honestly was actually quite because Podrick's been quite a background character, but clearly there, and we've had a lot of fun comedic scenes with him, especially with the whole he was like an amazing fuck to the whores, which he didn't have to pay for. But we're along with the fact with all the bits of him actually being quite a competent squire.
The highlight for him is when he saved Tyrion in the Blackwater.
Yep, that too. He did do that, and that was sort of like a big moment for him. And his performance from Podrick's actor actually did a really good job, which kind of surprised me. Not that I didn't think he was a bad actor, not at all, but I didn't think he'd not steal the scene, but be a competent actor to the level of the scene required. Like, he played his role really well. So, fair play to that guy. He did a really good job.
Yeah, you could see the subtle heartbreak that he had to,
Yeah.
you know, he had to betray Tyrion because he was so loyal to him.
Yeah, and Peter Dinklage was also great. He's been pretty great these first 3 episodes. Whenever he's been on screen, he's
been very vulnerable.
Yeah, he has been. Yeah, I think this is probably the best in terms of bring out some proper acting out of him. He's great. But
I think my
really
favorite
challenge him. Yeah.
They did a lot of close-ups in this, and I think my favorite facial expression is when he realized that Sansa was gone.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that was
like
really good.
He was so confused. He's like, "What? How?"
Yeah.
But that's really interesting. And then obviously he's called Jaime to come in with him. This is coming after Cersei requesting Jaime to kill Tyrion. So that's going to be a conflict of interest for Jaime, being between the two siblings, whom he both loves, who hate each other. Which is going to be great for his character. It's just a shame about the rate, I guess. Oh, it would have been so much better if he didn't do that.
It'd be so much better if they didn't make all those mistakes.
Yeah. It's okay though. It's okay though. This is something. It's a black mark on Jaime's character, but it's something that it doesn't break the show yet. You could still do a good story.
You can fix him. You can fix him.
Yeah. Oh, what a shame! Like they spent the whole of season 3 building up as one of the best characters in the show, and then
he had the best scene of that season in terms of an individual character.
Yeah. What a shame.
Now they've had this.
Yeah. Yes, of course. But there was one more thing that happened in King's Landing. Of course, it was Sansa Stark being pulled away by Dontas Hollad, and they revealed that the necklace was not a family heirloom. It was given to him a week earlier. And it was all a play by Littlefinger, Peter Baelish, who we have not seen since Chaos is a Ladder in The Climb.
Yeah.
So he has been away since the Red Wedding and the Purple Wedding and has been waiting in the wings, knowing it would happen. Clearly, because he talked all about it. Rescued Sansa and killed Dontas. Oh boy, it's great to have Littlefinger back, isn't it?
Oh yes, I'm ready for some great Littlefinger action. It's nice to see him back because I have missed his presence these last couple episodes. But yeah, I'm looking forward to see what happens next. I do think, as well prepared as the escape was, seemingly, I did find it a little easy. Considering there was clearly a decent amount of time passed. Because it was nighttime by the time they got to the boat. I think it was a little easy.
Yeah, there's possibly a way they could have framed it and directed it where it would have been more sensible, I guess.
I would want scenes of them hiding while Lannister guards, King's Landing guards are trying to look for them. At the very least. I felt it just felt a little too easy to escape. It was like a better version of the Gendry leaves King, like Dragonstone scene.
Oh yeah. The Gendry Dragonstone shit was so dumb.
Yeah, this was like
Funny you say that. They did actually reference that, but we'll get to that later.
They did. But this was you can at least infer that because Littlefinger is a clever person that this all been orchestrated. Yeah, there's a possibility it could be slightly. I would rather it be presented pretty not this easy because it felt pretty easy, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is some wiggle room because if you remember, Tywin Lannister did order all the guards to be, to escort Tyrion away, and basically that was the main thing. And then I think it's just the pacing really, because they very quickly said, "Where's Sansa?" It would have been
because I was completely right in the fact that it was going to start off that way. But because they asked, she's like left like the area, but she ain't that far, and they're already asking where's Sansa.
Yeah,
and it was still like the sun was still up, and then by the time
it would have been
down.
Like it would have been better had they had, you know, I think again this is probably a TV show editing thing, but like if half an hour had passed and then they asked where is Sansa, that would have been different.
Or even just 5 minutes. Even just 5 minutes. Because by the time they leave, the sun is almost down. It's still light, but compared to like when they left, it was still pretty much like late-ish afternoon. Yeah, I would probably have done that scene slightly differently.
Yeah, there's a way you could have done it where it would have worked easier, and there would have been more space between where Sansa was and them asking where is she.
The order Tywin gives is find her, bar the gates of the city, seize every ship in the harbour. So that they're at it straight away. They know. So Tywin gives the order, and that's like she's still running out of the area.
Yeah.
Yeah, it felt a little. I would have done it a bit differently.
Yeah, it's just a timing thing that would be improved, really.
Yeah.
But of course, once we get to the ship, it's great.
Once we get to the ship, though, yeah, it's great.
Yeah, the betrayal from Baelish, where he says, "Gold will keep a man quiet for a while. A bullet, an arrow to the heart will keep him quiet forever." That was a great line.
It was.
And this is something.
I'd say,
This is something that he had been planning since season 1. If you remember, he talked in his brothel in season 1 about how, you know, he wanted to sail away with his ships. Sansa saw him sail away in season 3 after the Chaos is a Ladder speech to Varys, and then he came back for this opportune moment. Pretty much because he knew that this was when Joffrey was going to die and Sansa was going to be suspected of it and needed to get her out at that exact moment. So Littlefinger was clearly planning for her to be escorted away to safety with him. Because if you remember, ever since she came to King's Landing with Ned, he's been planting seeds in her head ever since the joust, really.
Well, yeah, ever since episode 6, 7, like pretty early on.
No, I think it was episode 5 was the joust, the Wolf and
Lion.
Lion.
Yeah, well, yeah, but yeah, pretty early, pretty early.
Yeah,
like this has been 3 seasons in the making.
And he promised to take her with him in the previous season. He just didn't say how it was going to happen.
Yeah, because he's going to try his best to still convince Sansa, which he can't. I think
he knew at this stage that if he actually told her the plan outright, she wouldn't have been able to follow it properly. He needed her to not know what it was.
To make sure it goes as smooth as possible.
Yeah. Absolute manipulator. And that's why you can tell... And remember in the previous episode when Varys was looking unsettled during the whole wedding? You can tell that Varys knew what was going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he knew everything. But there's nothing he could do about it. Because he obviously cares about Sansa's life. He doesn't want her to get, killed or anything. So, powers beyond him. It's again the chess game. Littlefinger getting another hit in the chess game after Chaos is a Ladder, reversing the power once again. Good stuff. Anything else you want to say about the King's Landing stuff?
Yeah, overall, good stuff with 1 and 2 really bloody good dialogue heavy scenes. And that's a real shame about that rape scene.
Yeah. Real shame.
Ugh.
It's a shame because, when I look up, people often will say top 10 worst Game of Thrones episodes. They'll usually put this one on it. And the only reason they do that is for that one moment when Jaime rapes Cersei. And it's like, Yeah, but the rest of it's really good though.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you're forgetting how good the rest of it is. Oh well. Yeah. I mean, I think it would be fair to have that opinion at the time it aired, but I think in context of the entire show, no. There's much worse later. Like, stuff that gets everything wrong as opposed to just one moment. Admittedly, a very badly character-breaking moment, but... You know, that's... we'll get to the stuff that comes later.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. Let's move to the Hound and Arya Stark with the farmer and his daughter.
Yeah. I thought that was a decent little section of the episode. I'm enjoying the sort of back and forth between Arya and the Hound at the moment. Their big differences, and the Hound's sort of like trying to,
and their similarities too.
Yeah, they've and a lot of similarities too. But that I really like that line with the Hound mentioning like how many Stark beheadings would it take you to learn, pretty much.
You are the worst shit in this country, in Westeros, or something like that.
Yeah, you're the worst shit in the Seven Kingdoms.
That's right. That's the one.
Yeah. Yeah, like the Hound's point of like, yes, they're both two good people, and one of them makes a really good stew. They'll be both dead by winter. That's how he sees the reality of the situation.
Yeah, he's thinking about what can I do to survive this myself, whereas Arya's thinking more morally about, you know, these are innocent people. This is not the honorable way to do it. Which is, again, this is like her father coming in. You know, this is Ned Stark coming into her point of view here. At this point, Arya's kind of at a crossroads, really, because she's somewhat like the Hound. She's become, you know, she started to eat like him and act like him and wipe her face like him, and she's becoming, her mannerisms are becoming like him. She's being influenced by him in that regard. But then when it comes to this stuff, you know, that the honorable Stark side of her comes in. You know, those were innocent people. You shouldn't have done that to them. You know, they didn't deserve that. But of course, the Hound is thinking tactically.
Mm-hmm.
How many Stark beheadings will it take for you to learn, girl? And he's got a point. They're all dying around her.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much everyone she knows is dead.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's the Hound is a really good person to help her develop as a character, really.
Yeah.
Because he presents the world as it is, bluntly.
At the very least, what he believes it is. Yeah.
Yeah, his worldview.
What his worldview is, and how he doesn't care, like how good as people are, their situation is fucked the way he sees it. So what's the point of them having this silver? Just, yeah. Yeah, but I'm enjoying their scenes together. It's a nice little it's always a nice little section of the episodes, I'd say, of just Arya's sort of, I'm assuming, journey she's going to go on in terms of what she'll eventually believe, because she'll eventually go on and continue with that list she has. So that'll be interesting to see where they go for the rest of the season.
Yeah. Yes, of course. Then, of course, we go to Castle Black. So I think we'll start with Samwell Tarly and Gilly.
Yeah.
Because they were the main focus for this one.
They were the main focus character-wise, definitely, of the Wall section. I liked their scenes together. I think the two actors have decent chemistry together. I think it's sweet. It's a sweet, you know, relationship they have, kind of. And Sam's decision to send her to whatever town,
Molestown,
they go, to go into basically what seemingly like a very run down bar / whorehouse, I guess, because that's what the implication was of other work. Gilly's sort of reaction to it is like, Yeah, it's understandable. I wouldn't say it's my favorite thing in the world. It's very tropey of that sort of people's reactions to, oh, you're just trying to protect me. That I can protect myself, kind of, those kind of things that you get.
She is very. I think the contrast between them has always been that he's extremely intelligent and knowledgeable because he comes from a highborn house and he reads a lot of books, but he's also very sensitive and anxious.
Insecure.
Whereas she's very simple, doesn't know a lot of things, but highly emotional and has been through some pretty bad life experiences, but doesn't really know better. And she feels, I think the thing with Gilly is that she's been abused her whole life by Craster.
Yes.
And Samwell is the only person in the world that she trusts. And now she feels like he's deserting her, even though he's trying to do it to protect her. I think it's a case of like, I think it in one way you can look at it as like it's annoying because she's not really understanding him, and she's sort of just blaming him. But I think it's also a thing of she believes in Sam because she's seen what he can do.
Yeah, clearly, yeah. Because they mentioned the fact that no one believes that Sam killed a White Walker.
Yeah, and I think Sam doesn't believe that he can protect her. But she disagrees. I think she says, no, you can protect me. I've seen it.
Yeah, you've proven you can. You've proven that you can protect me.
Yeah,
but you understand Sam's point because he referenced what happened last season, and his viewpoint is valid itself because, like before that scene started, we have a bunch of new people coming in who were thieves, murderers, and rapers. Sam does have a point. Yeah.
Sadly, rape seems to be the theme for this episode.
God, there is a lot. Oh, God.
Yeah. But yeah, and there's also a small inference I can make on it as well, is that I think this is something that is not just for Gilly, but it's also shown visually, is that it's not just about him protecting her, it's also the fact that she thinks that her child needs a father and she wants Sam to father her child.
Yeah,
and if he's not around, he can't do that. And he's basically forcing her to be a single mother in a shithole.
At the moment, yeah.
Yeah. And it's just you can see from her facial expression after he leaves that she's just it's tough. It's a tough situation and she's not happy about it.
Yeah, it's not exactly the best place to live right now.
Yeah, I think it's Gilly's an interesting character because there's a lot going on, but because of her simplicity, she's not really able to articulate her words very well because she doesn't really know how to speak the language that the way Samwell does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much.
The Sam Gilly storyline is different to everything else, and I think that's interesting. It's a small, little, tiny story.
Yeah,
I think
it's a small section. Yeah,
I think one of the best episodes that utilized them was The Climb last season, actually, because it had them at the bottom of the wall, and it's this small, tiny, little isolated story, and then the episode builds up and shows you the entire world and all its stakes, and then it ends with literally the entire of the Seven Kingdoms being described as a ladder by Littlefinger.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Gilly kind of represents the opposite of that. She doesn't know anything about what's going on. She's completely clueless as to the world she lives in.
She pretty much knows nothing.
Yeah.
She knows the most basic things. And even then, that's not that much.
But her Samwell Tarly and her son is her world,
Yeah.
That's really nice. Yeah.
It's a nice little thing right now. Nice little section of the storyline.
And at this point in the show, they are still using every scene with her and Sam to develop their characters well. At this point, Dave and Dan, at this point. Anyway. Now we'll move on to Ygritte, Tormund, and the Thenns attack on the, I guess you'd call it, I don't know what you would call it, but it was like that. It was that paddock near the wall.
Yeah.
And you had the kid named Ollie who saw his parents get eaten. And then
about
ran
to be
Castle.
eaten.
Well,
like
about to
the
be.
person says, like, we're gonna eat your fucking family.
Yeah, Steer the Then.
I'm gonna eat your mama and I'm gonna eat your papa.
And he sends Ollie to go to Castle Black and tell the Watch about it, which is part of Mance Rayder's plan. You know, he wants them to be distracted by what's behind them. So yeah, they're very close to Castle Black now, and did that brutal attack. Now Ollie's at Castle Black. This is an interesting thing, because I don't believe Ollie is in the books. I believe this is a showrunner edition. I believe it plans out a bit differently. This middle section of season 4 is sort of a deviation. It's a small little mini story, the next few episodes with the wall, that revolves around. That's why they did this attack. That's why they had Ollie introduced as a character to inform them of them being there. And then we got the scene where Edison, Tillett, and Gren returned to Castle Black, and they found out about what happened at Craster's Keep, where Mormont was killed, and so was Craster, and Carl Tanner is reigning it, really.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and so, of course, we got the scene where Jon Snow says that we need to go and attack them, because if they tell Mance Rayder the truth while their fingernails are being peeled back, then we're fucked. So his solution is to...
pretty much fucked.
His solution is to go there, and he has to go and kill them all. So yeah, your thoughts on that section of Castle Black storyline?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes. So I'm imagining it's gonna end not well, especially with what I'm imagining is going to be the eventual meeting again of Egret and Jon. So I don't imagine that would go too well. But yeah, they're building up a very slow, like, this is the stage of the North story. Is there going to be a battle between, I'm assuming, the Wildlings and Castle Black or whoever? Yeah, I'm enjoying the most Jon's, like, I noticed he was like the closest to Ollie the kid, trying to console him. I just like these little moments of Jon just being a good person. It's just I think also, well, it's interesting you say good person. He's literally about to say go and kill them all. No, but he's doing what he thinks is right, you know.
Yeah, honorable I think is the word to use. Good is a subjective term in Game of Thrones, especially. But I think my favorite thing about it is we are seeing, now that Geo Mormont's dead, we are seeing the clashing is not quite the right word, but there is constant tension between Jon Snow and Alliser Thorne as who is in charge here.
He's taken a more,
and that's why, and you're noticing
role.
Thorne is constantly asking Jon Snow hard questions. It's like, do you have the answers to our problems, boy? You know, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And seemingly Jon Snow has some answers.
Mm-hmm. He does. He has a good mind for battle.
Yes. There was also one little cheeky line from Jane Slint that I thought that was cool when, not cool, but it was disgusting, but it was good for his character, was when he'd said to Sam, he's just like, is that one a whore? No, I'll give her a copper tonight and find out.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Reinforcing that he thinks he runs the place because he was in the City Watch, but actually he's worth nothing. And Tyrion made sure of that.
Yeah.
Even though he was literally like supposed to be in charge of Harrenhal, and then Tyrion stripped that of them and sent him to the fucking wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now he's just a leech on the side of Thorne, trying to grasp on for power. I liked that bit in Molestown where the whores went up to the whore with black teeth. Said to Gilly, "Where are you from? North of here. Are you a fucking wildling?"
Yeah, fucking wildling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
It's kind of ironic though that the whole idea of it is that those south of the wall are superior, and yet you have this whore south of the wall who's looks like a crackhead, to put it politely. And you have Gilly, who's actually, you know, obviously has been through a lot, but She's seemingly very innocent, and she's a wildling north of the wall, just circumstantially happens to be born there.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot going on up there, and they're getting pressured from both sides now, in more ways than one, because they have Tormund and Ygritte and the Thens from the south, and they have Mansraider's army marching, as well as Karl Tanner's little group at Krasus Keep too. So yeah, there's a lot going on around that area. It's a hot area for action. So we'll have to wait and see how Jon Snow and his lads cope with this stress. Then we move to Dragonstone. So we have the scene.
Yeah.
We have the scene with Stannis Baratheon and Davos Seaworth. He's talking about what houses have you rallied, and basically jack shit is what he's rallied.
Yeah, 3 houses that are pretty much nothing in Stannis' eyes.
Yeah. I loved the line where he says, "My claim to the throne is being forgotten. And so will you. I'm running out of time to get on the throne. We have the perfect opportunity to do so now that Joffrey Baratheon is dead. It is time for me to come back and get the throne before it's too late, and you have to help me. Otherwise, you will be forgotten too." That was fantastic.
Well, yeah, like, that means time is running out, and time is running out for you too, Davos. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially given it's just like, we had a bastard of Robert Baratheon and you let him go. So it is your responsibility to make sure that this happens. I also really like the way Davos confronted him about, like, you know, there are things that the Red Woman has proven about the Lord of Light to be true, but we've never seen the Lord of Light win wars, but soldiers on the ground we have.
Yeah. No, yeah, he makes a good point. Oh, you're good with doing blood magic, but you're not good for paying people to fight a war.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and he talked about the Golden Company, and he's like, they're sellswords, you know? And because it's not honorable. He still, much like Ned Stark, he wants to win honorably. Having sellswords at his side would not be honorable, but Davos Seaworth is like, yes, but you're running out of options. You need to have people. And then he's desperately trying to rack up, well, how am I going to get Stannis what he needs? And we get that scene with Shireen, and obviously we know that Davos is learning how to read better now.
Yes.
And then she helped. It's kind of like, it is a bit of a sort of a cliche. We've seen this a lot in different films and TVs, but it's like the person inadvertently helps them realize what they need.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that happens quite a bit, yeah.
Shireen points them to something which makes them realize the Iron Bank in Braavos would be helpful.
It's time to get a loan.
Yeah, it's time to get a loan. It's like, I think there's actually a scene in Doctor Who that's exactly like it. I can't remember which one it was.
I imagine that's happened quite a few times where they stumble upon it during a conversation.
Yeah, it's something that the Doctor would do. Like, the companion would say something that they didn't mean to say, and then the Doctor's like, wait, what?
Yeah. Well, no, yeah, and the Doctor begins to trail off after that, and then he pauses, and then they would... That's something Tennant would probably, I imagine, has done before.
Yeah, it does sound like it. Oh, you are brilliant! I am so thick! Oh. Yeah. What? Devil Seaworth kind of had that moment.
You did.
Yes. And so, to prove her mother wrong, Shireen isn't so useless after all, clearly. And then I like that whole thing of like, I need someone smart to write this letter for me.
Yeah,
and you must say it.
We can't practice. This has got to be. We got to do this now and proper.
Yeah, and make sure it's Stannis Baratheon. I want them to get their attention.
Yeah.
So clearly, we are headed from Dragonstone to Braavos for Stannis Baratheon.
Yeah.
Which will be interesting because we've heard all about Braavos from Styria Perel and from Jaqen H'ghar, well, the faceless man who wore Jaqen H'ghar's face, and we heard about it from multiple characters. We heard about it from, I believe, Dorea in season 1 in that bathtub scene with Viserys. All sorts.
Yes.
All sorts of characters have referenced Braavos, but we've never been there before.
No, we have not.
So yes, we'll have to wait and see how it goes when Stannis Baratheon goes to Braavos, to the Iron Bank. Got that to look forward to. Any further
Yeah.
thoughts on that whole thing at Dragonstone? I thought it was cool.
No, I thought it was. It felt like it's sort of getting a bit back on track right now. The Stannis storyline at the moment.
It was narrative progression.
Yeah, we're making actual progress, thankfully.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking right now, like, I think, like, for me, Sir Davos is probably one of the most likable characters in the show.
Yep.
Compared to a lot of people. And I think Liam Cunningham does a really bloody good job with it.
So charming.
Yeah, he's a very charming actor.
Yeah, and he's got to deal with a lot. Stannis
He's got
Baratheon is
to
not
deal
a
with a lot.
lovable man.
He is very stressed out, seemingly.
Stannis Baratheon is not a nice man.
It makes
He's
me
an honourable
kind of
man.
annoyed, even though it's a running thing. A lot of people are wasting Doctor Who, but especially Liam Cunningham. I would have liked him to have a bigger and better role in a better story.
Oh, there's so many people in Cold War that are wasted because you've also got the guy who plays Edmure Tully, and you've got David Warner as well.
There's a lot of Game of Thrones actors who were in Doctor Who who just didn't get good scripts. This is very rare, if any.
Poor bloody Mark Addy.
Mark Addy. That might be the worst one, probably.
Maybe. Oh well, Maisie Williams was
Maisie
pretty
Williams
awful.
is bad. Maisie Williams one is pretty bad, but at the same time, like, Mark Addy is so good. He is so good. Yeah.
I guess Maisie Williams at least got Face the Raven, whereas Mark Addy got jack shit.
Yeah, he got jack shit.
Coach Sharma's in the Timeless Children also pisses me off too, because Barristan is great.
Yeah.
Speaking of, we should transition over to Marine with Daenerys
Yes, well,
Targaryen.
Yeah, that was
throwing-
yeah, I liked that bit a lot. Throwing of
Clearing
barrels
yourself the
and
breaker
exploding.
of chains.
Yeah, and showing all the
Very simple.
broken
very symbolic.
chains. Yeah, of the former slaves that have now joined her.
I actually have to say, I think this is one of the most visually impressive scenes in the show.
Yeah, I think
thought
it's a really good setting here.
I mean,
Really
I thought
well
the gates of Marine were absolutely massive, and the pyramid and everything. I thought that was really nicely done. It looked huge, very impressive, and the way that the direction was done showed it off well. They did the whole thing of the one rider challenges, and I like they ran through. It's like, you know, you are Grey Worm. You are the leader of the Unsullied. I need you. And then, you know, Barristan, you are the best fighter, which is why you must be by my side at all times.
Yeah.
And Jorah, you are my dearest friend and my wisest advisor. Of course, Dario Naharis doesn't have any of that. He's a sellsword. And his mother was a bastard whore. So, he has nothing to lose from this. I like the whole thing of, you know, horses are dumb. Throws the knife at the horse, it falls over and slices the man with his blade.
Yeah.
With ease.
Easy peasy.
Easy. And then he pisses all over just to mock the Marinese.
Yep.
Yeah. I think Michael Hussman is definitely, you know, he had to follow up a previous actor, Ed Skrein, existing, and I think he's taken the role and he's made it his own, really.
I agree. I think he's
nice
doing a
to
really
see.
good job.
He's very charming.
He's a very good fucking actor.
One of them, there was a few Marinese characters that didn't speak, but some of the masters that you'll get to see as dialogue characters later on were in this scene, like his Zola Rack, for example, was watching on at this whole thing. There was a lot of shots of him and his face.
Yeah, there were a lot of recognizable people that kept showing up that you would, I'm assuming we'll see more of them down the line.
Yeah. But yeah, she used the trebuchet rams to blast the crates at the buildings and show broken chains to the slaves as a symbolic gesture of this is what's going to happen. You're gonna be released from your chains. Because this is what the liberals do. This This is Daenerys' version of being Abraham Lincoln, I guess. Anyway, yeah, I thought it was a really nice last scene. It symbolically represents the title of the episode and her making a very bold statement about her, you know, what her intentions are. There's no secrecy here. She's basically foreshadowing, this is what's going to happen when I enter your gates.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
She
what
does
happens.
have these kind of scenes quite a lot, and I'd probably say this is probably one of the better ones.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe not as much moral ambiguity as I'd like. Again, this is probably because they sacrificed the point of view chapters, but this is also because of what they did in Karth with the House of the Undying, Dave and Dan. This is what you did to that scene. That scene that is supposed to be showing us her vulnerable side, and instead does not do that in the same way in the fucking slightest. And instead, what it does instead is foreshadow season 8 in hindsight.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what it does.
Yeah. That's one of the biggest liberties they took in the early show, was what they did in the House of the Undying in season 2. It's just, it's criminal. It's criminal what they did to her character. Anyway, we'll get to the consequences of that later. I mean, there was one scene where that did definitely sacrifice some ambiguity, and that was in season 3, you know, in Now's Watch Has Ended, when she frees Astapor, the Unsullied from Astapor. They play her as this, you know, big, bombastic badass saving the people.
Yeah, she's such a badass.
When actually it's more so, she's just murdered a slave master with dragonfire. You know, surely that should be focused on, right? But no, they all just nodded. They all nodded at each other because she's heroic. So yeah, that ambiguity is not there, but it doesn't. We haven't reached a point yet where this critical failure of her character has actually made her bad yet. We've only seen it remove some of the elements that make her great. And I think, whilst I really like the core of her character motivation of the slave freeing, that's well done. It's just a disappointment that they've removed some of the things that make her complex and have replaced it with what we have. But, you know, I'll get more into that later once we actually get to the nitty-gritty of the storytelling and beyond just the big gestures like this.
Yes.
But apart from that, I thought it was a very big entrance, and the cinematography in that final scene was very, very grand.
Very grand indeed.
So the episode was well received. Some people thought it was a bit of a letdown after the Purple Wedding because the last episode was universally acclaimed. But I think that's natural. It's natural to have a come down after something like that. But it's really, I think the thing that comes overall is everyone always talks about, oh yes, aftermath of Joffrey's violent demise is done well, and, you know, Daenerys gets the grandiose moment with the broken shackles and all that stuff, but what it really comes down to is just, unfortunately, with all of this really good stuff going on, the only thing anyone ever wanted to talk about was the rape scene, because they were just so, like, taken aback by it.
Yeah.
And it was controversial across the board, because when you think about it, it's controversial for book readers because it's a deviation from source material and one that devalues the scene. And then it's controversial for non-book readers and like mainstream people as well, because it's out of character for the TV show, Jamie, too. But then it's also controversial even if you're not that and you're just watching this as very casually, because it's like he just rapes her next to a dead child. Like, what the fuck? And it's their child. So you don't even need to be knowledgeable of the source material to understand why this scene is a problem. So yeah, it's a big fuck up.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Yeah.
I think this was also, this was the first time Dave and Dan like really got under fire for something properly. They had, you know, think like they'd had people niggle at them before and that annoyed them, but this is the first time that they'd gotten a really, really major backlash for something that happened in their show. I mean, I guess that there was that portion of people that thought that the Mise ending was white savior syndrome, but I think that this rape scene was one that covered everyone, really.
Pretty much.
You know,
no surprise, really.
I think the only corner of fans that didn't really have a problem with it were the ones that just sort of accept it because Game of Thrones is edgy. But you know, if you pay attention to the character arcs, it's very, very jarring. Yeah. I think that what the director Alex Graves said is that it was supposed to be a power struggle between Jaime and Cersei, but unfortunately, like, it was what he wanted to do as a director is he wanted to show the consent through actions rather than words. But because of the camera work and the editing, it doesn't really show that. Because you don't see her face. That's the biggest problem, I think, is you don't actually see her face, so you don't know what she's thinking.
Yeah, all we can go from is her dialogue.
Like, I genuinely think Lena Headey could do a version of that scene where we see what she's thinking from her expressions.
Yeah, of course,
I would prefer. I would prefer dialogue, but I think there is a way you could have done it where she implies what she's thinking, and she presents consent to him. But just the way it's shot and edited doesn't do that, and it looks like rape. Just the like no, it's like the no stop. It's like the no stop, not here. I don't care. And you're just sort of seeing it.
The I don't care really is a nail in a coffin, really.
It is very weirdly edited too. When I rewatched it, I was like, "Oh, that's so weird." Like the way it's done, it's like, "Oh, you could have gotten better angles of that scene." It's very strange. Yeah, George R. R. Martin, the author of the novels, said that the dynamic is different in the show because, as opposed to the books, Jaime has been back for weeks, at least maybe longer. He said that while the setting is the same, neither character is in the same place as in the books, and he surmises this may be why Dave and Dan played the Sept out differently, and he never discussed it with them, and that scene was always intended to be disturbing, but regret if it had been disturbing people for the wrong reasons. I think that's the disconnect, really. Is that it is supposed to be a disturbing scene, but it's not disturbing in the way that's in character. It's disturbing in a way that's out of character.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And Nikolai Coster-Waldau, the actor, said, "Many saw the scene as brutal rape. That was obviously never intended. I understand that one can see it as that, but for us it was more complex." And Headey portrayed Cersei declined to comment on whether she interpreted it as consensual and said that it's a very complicated moment for many reasons. There was this need and it wasn't right, and yet it felt great, and yet it wasn't right, and it played out the way it did. And she was happy with it. But yeah, it's just, it doesn't translate to screen. You need to have...
No, it's not presented that way at all.
There needs to be more communication with the audience for this to work. Because it's not presented in the way that...
Quite simply, it's not presented that way at all.
Yeah, this is because you know how people always say like show don't tell and subtlety and all that. This is an example where I don't think that worked well. I think they executed that.
Well, I think what they showed us a clear picture of it being a rape scene. I don't see how you can paint it any differently from what is presented.
Yeah, even if in the actors' minds and the directors' minds it wasn't. It is what's there.
Yeah, but when you look at it and you look at the final cut of it, it's presented as rape, and you can't move around that really.
Yeah, it's a botched scene is the way you could call it.
Mm-hmm. Very botched.
I think, apart from that, I think on the whole, I think Dave and Dan actually did a good job with this episode.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of really good dialogue in this episode.
Yeah, this isn't that scene wasn't their fault really. I don't think it was, unless somehow they just didn't have enough. I think
the way I see it is a mixture of errors from all areas really.
Yeah. I think there needed to be like a better communication between Martin, Dave and Dan, Alex Graves, and the actors and the editors all together needed to be like, right, this is a scene that could be interpreted the wrong way. We need to make sure we execute it in a way that's going to make sense and it's going to translate to the audience the right
everyone just
way.
need to be more careful. They need to be more careful with it because it's clearly been botched.
Because this is a TV show, so we need to get it done in a certain way for the audience. Whereas,
how it's presented is very important.
you know, in a book, you can just tell the audience what's happening in your mind. And it's a lot easier to do that because you can actually describe the complexity. Whereas here, the audience has to infer what's happening based on what's presented. And what's presented doesn't actually do what they wanted it to.
Of course.
It's a shame. But on the whole, I actually think the camera work outside of that moment being a botch was actually really, really good.
I agree.
It's the same director as the last episode, and I think he continued a consistent style and tone. I think a lot of the shots looked great. I thought the angles were fantastic, especially in the Oberon scene with Tywin. That was so well directed.
Oh yes.
The attack on Ollie's little family camp thing was really sudden and off screen, and like the way they entered was really well done. Of course, I said the grand scale of the Marine gates was fantastic. I even thought the Molestown stuff looked really good too, like the way it looked so grimy and dirty and battered.
Yeah, they really sold the sort of dirtiness of the whole area.
Yeah, and just oh my god, Littlefinger's like scary ship. Can't go wrong with that.
Oh yeah, a big tone setter for sure.
Yeah, and I actually kind of like the detail of how it was raining at Dragonstone. Kind of fit the tone of what they were doing in the scene with the dialogue with Stannis Baratheon. Of like, you know, it's almost like symbolic of his time trying to get the throne, really, and how it's raining now for him. In a lot of ways, he spends a lot of time looking out that window when it's not raining, glancing at the distance, and now it's in his way. I thought that was a nice bit of visual symbolism for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very good atmosphere, all sorts of things, but yeah, just the miscommunication in the Sept of Baelor could have been handled better. But of course, we move on to the one thing in the show that's seemingly always great, and that's Raymond Javadi's music.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
So good. Shall we get into these tracks?
Let's do it.
The first track is called Thens. Of a cannibal, I'd say.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. Yeah. Yeah, that was good. That was a good. Yeah, very suited bit of music, I think, for sure.
Definitely very heavy on the drums.
Oh yes.
We hadn't gotten a proper introduction in Two Swords. They would probably come across as quite, one-dimensional, being just sort of cannibals that kill lots of people and eat them. But I think that scene they had with Tormund and Ygritte in the first episode, they actually had Steer lay out everything about them.
Yeah.
And their dynamic with the wildlings.
Yeah. If this is all we got, it'd come off as pretty cartoonish.
Oh, definitely, for certain. I mean, there are definitely elements that Dave and Dan have made more cartoonish for TV. I think Ramsey in season 3 is definitely one of them. But they don't sacrifice, at least at this point, at this stage in the show, they don't sacrifice the character that defines who they are.
Absolutely.
So it's not as detrimental as it could be if they did sacrifice the characters. It's not as detrimental as it could be. Keep that on the mind.
Yeah.
For later. I have no more things to say about that. Shall we move on to the next song?
Yes.
It's called Breaker of Chains. It's interesting the way that he develops her sort of themes across
it becomes
seasons.
more uplifting and hopeful from what I sort of gather from it.
And just sort of developing it as she, accumulates all these different people around her.
Yeah, as she grows, as she pretty much grows stronger. That was a good one. That's a great track.
I think it actually reminded me to say something. It's interesting because you talk about angles and how high angle and low angle can present different power. I think it's really interesting that we have a scene where the person on the low angle is actually the person in power.
Yeah. Based against
unique.
like how, considering how big that city is, how low down she is, yet she provides so much power over them. Yeah, it's really interesting. Really,
definitely
nice visuals for sure.
What is it time now for?
I think it's trivia time.
Yep, I've got a couple of bits of good trivia for you. This one's a bit of a map thing. that'll explain things if you're not sure. So as the Hound previously explained, he is crossing back south from the twins through the Riverland so he can reach the Vale of Arryn and ransom Arya back to her only remaining free and wealthy relative, her Aunt Lysa at the Eirich. The twins bridge over the Green Fork of the Trident River, the quickest way from the twins to the Bloody Gate, the mountains that pass that leads to the Vale, is to travel south along the King's Road located east of the Green Fork. In this episode, Arya asks where they are, and the Hound says he thinks they are near the town of Fairmarket, which is located along the Blue Fork of the Trident River. The Blue Fork itself is west of the Green Fork. Arya and the Hound are therefore travelling south, then east, instead of east, then south along the King's Road. The Hound must have chosen to avoid taking the main highway in the region for fear of Lannister patrols, in favour of slowly making his way back through the country, explaining why it took him the second half of Season 3 to travel from the mouth of the Trident to the Twins, but is it taking all of Season 4 to travel back? So that, if you're paying very close attention to that dialogue in terms of geography, it's clear that he's avoiding attention from the Lannisters.
Yeah.
Which is why he's taking the route he is.
Taking great care in the geography of the world and the characters and where they're going actually matters based on what they're trying to do.
Yes.
You know,
and also,
that sort of attention to detail is very nice to see.
I really liked also the fact that Arya acknowledged her mum's house, the Tullys, and that kind of gave you an idea of where they are near, because these people clearly, you know, they said, you know, anyone who bled for House Tully is welcome in my house. You know, that says a lot. And then we have, when asked about memorable moments filming Season 4, Pedro Pascal recounted that during the scene where Tywin interrupts the orgy that Oberyn is having at the brothel, one of the actresses playing one of the prostitutes, he didn't specify which one, wouldn't put her robe on between takes. This has been brought up by other actresses filming past nude scenes, repeatedly disrobing over and over again for multiple takes during an entire day of filming, as if performing a striptease for the filming crew each time. Can actually be more stressful than just staying naked between takes. What Pascal thought was odd was that this was a long day of filming and the actress would stay naked even during long breaks, to the point that later she sat around in the green room entirely naked while playing Words with her Friends on her iPhone with David Benioff.
Oh my god.
Very strange.
That's pretty strange.
Alright then.
My word.
Nudists, I guess.
Yeah, fair enough, I guess.
The viewership was a 6.6 overnight and an 8.2 overall, so it's a bump up from The Lion and the Rose, naturally, given the massive amount of it. And it is basically identical to Two Swords, so we're back at the peak again after Joffrey's death.
Okay. Alright. Yeah, I'm just wondering when it's going to start rising even more. And when is the point it's going to break into the 9s and then eventually break into the 10s?
We have to wait and see, right? Have to wait and see.
Yes, indeed.
All right, this should be interesting. Give your conclusion and rating out of 10 for Breaker of Chains.
Overall, this is a pretty decent episode to good. There are some really great scenes, 2 in particular. Well, one in its entirety is great, and there's another that is half great. And there's a lot of other really decent stuff, a lot of neat character moments, some decent performances. However, Jaime Lannister's character being pretty badly written, in terms of how it's presented, at least, to not only rape Cersei, but to do it in front of his dead son, and how that's presented is a pretty big bad no-no. That is probably, at this point in the show, the worst scene in the show. Because of how much great stuff last season there was with Jaime, how we learned he is very much not that kind of person. I don't believe for a second in how that's presented that's what he would actually do. So as good as all the other stuff was, I can't really forgive that scene because it's a massive, massive moment between two of one of the better characters out of the whole show. Like, I really like their scenes in particular, and a lot of these scenes in the show. So that is, for me, it's just really annoying to see. So I'm probably gonna say I'm gonna give this episode a 7 out of 10. It would be lower without probably the Tywin stuff, I would probably say. So that it'd probably be a 6 if without that. So yeah, 7 out of 10 is the best.
That's the lowest so far. That's the lowest rating you've given so far.
It is, yeah. I think the lowest I've given before is like an 8.
Yeah, same. Did I get to 7.5 in season 3? I can't remember. I may have. Probably. Maybe. I'm not sure. I can't exactly remember. There was... Oh, it's difficult. There was something that really irked me, but this is a real shame because it's weird because you'd think the first big blunder in the show would be Dave and Dan's fault entirely. Like, it would be a conscious writing decision that they were, very like, this is what the story is doing. And we'll get to that later. Don't you worry. We will get to when Dave and Dan absolutely tipped this show sideways and fucked it in the ass. But this was a really solid episode with a few really great scenes that followed up on a fantastic episode. But unfortunately, the translation of the Jaime Cersei sex scene to screen was so badly botched that it comes across as a rape scene that's out of character, and it sucks that that's what happened, because Jaime is one of the best characters up to this point, and so is Cersei. And even in this scene before that moment, they were great too. And it sucks that one big bulbous blemish is what drags this episode down. Because the rest of it is really good. The scene with Tywin and Oberyn is phenomenal. The scene with Tyrion and Podrick is great. Daenerys, coming onto Meereen with the chains was really good. And you get the cool stuff with Arya and the Hound. And you've got the scene with Davos and Stannis and Shireen. And the scene with Sansa and Littlefinger was fantastic as well. And this would have been, if everything had panned out the way it was supposed to, like the way it was intended, this would have been, on the level of stuff like The Nightlands and, A Man Without Honor and stuff like that. The sort of the Climb and the Bear and the Maiden Fair, like that sort of tier of episode where it's not one of the best ones, but it's a solid entry. I guess we've had the ceiling of stuff at the top, but we've also had a sort of a catcher at the bottom of an 8 out of 10 of a standard of this show. But the blunder of Jaime Lannister's character is so bad that I have to, like you, give this a 7 out of 10, and it sucks that I have to do that, but it is what it is. Which is a shame. But it's still good overall, despite that one big fuck up. So, yeah. Hopefully, with Jaime, we can get back on track next time.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yes. Next time is Season 4, Episode 4, which is called Oathkeeper. Your thoughts going into Oathkeeper?
Well, I'm hoping for no ruining of characters I really like next episode. I'm hoping there'll be less of that. Yeah, but seriously, I hope. Yeah, I'm expecting better. Like, I'm expecting it to be better because Yeah, that was massively terrible. That moment, really, and it was happened so early in the episode too, which fucking sucked. Yeah, I'm pretty confident that the next episode will be better, and there won't be a scene like that next episode. But yeah, I'm looking forward to all the stuff moving forward. I'm looking forward to more stuff in the north because I'm excited to see that clash. I'm excited to see where Littlefinger and Sansa get up to, where that now goes. Now that Littlefinger has now reappeared in now season 4. Yeah, I'm looking forward to all the stuff with King's Landing with Tyrion and how that's going to go with the trial. Whether that was next episode or a couple of episodes down the road, I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, I still am excited despite that miss of a scene.
I think what we as Redemption, I think what we need to really hope for is that the next scene with Jaime Lannister is a good one that sort of reminds us of why we love this character. That's what I would say. I think that even though they didn't intend to fuck it up the way they did, I think it's for metatextual reasons for the audience, for us, it's important that Jaime Lannister in the next scene he's in is, where he needs to be. Is what I would say.
Yes.
So I guess you just gotta have faith that that's what will happen. So yeah, despite the wrinkle, are you looking forward to the next episode?
I am. Despite that scene, I am. I'm looking forward to the next episode very much. So.
I think the fact that they acknowledge that wasn't their intention, it means that you don't have to break your trust in them yet.
No. Yeah.
Maybe they trust in their abilities, but not their trust in their intentions. Yet, I say, yet. I'm going to be looming over with these little.
Because as we get closer and closer to the bad.
As I look in the flames, my king, and I see the ball of fire approaching us. I'm the Red Woman foreshadowing the abyss to come. The deep dark abyss that is David and Dan's Game of Thrones. I will see you all next time for Oathkeeper. Bye bye.